What's up, everybody? John Hoover along with Ryan Chapman, Randall Sweet. We are down here on the field after the red-white game, after the spring game. You can see right back here over my shoulder is a bunch of players signing autographs. That's how soon after the red-white game we are. 65-58. The offense beat the defense. Please don't ask me to recap the scoring for you. It's a little out there. The defense got a bunch of points for a bunch of stuff. 58. At least they were down 22-0 or 25-2 or something like that. So at least they got that going for them. They rallied. They took the lead. I don't think anybody in this stadium today had Brendan Zerbrug with the game-winning touchdown drive and Chapman McCown. I almost said Ryan Chapman McCown. Chapman McCown scoring the game-winning touchdown.
Norman's very own.
Norman's own. I mean, the way the thing ended was as entertaining as the way it began, but the way it began was a lot of highlights.
Yeah, a lot of the reason why the white team, the defense, whatever you want to call it, fell behind early is because, hey, if you guys didn't know, Purdue transfer Deion Burks looked like a dude out here on Owen Field today. 5 catches, 174, and 2 scores. The first one, a 64-yard connection with Jackson Arnold on basically what was a free play. The old Aaron Rodgers play, draw the offsides. Deion Burks just knifed straight downfield through the Oklahoma defense. Happened again for the 50-yarder, and then there was another one that Deion Burks was behind Oklahoma's defense, and Jackson Arnold just overthrew him a little bit. It was a really, really good day, and you're starting to see that connection. There's already all the chemistry you need. It's a guy in Deion Burks that when we talked to him for the pre-spring media day, he talked about Drake Stoops and everything that he had been in that spot. And Deion Burks looks like he's going to be sure-handed in a little bit different way than Drake, though. A legit vertical threat, and he's going to be what looks like quite the safety blanket for Jackson Arnold. And it was a Jackson Arnold, guys, today that we saw wasn't the interception machine that we kind of saw in the Alamo Bowl. He was a guy that, despite the fact that he had a lot better production, I know Randall's going to hit into that here in a second than maybe we thought, but even when it broke down, you didn't see guys rotating over and picking off Jackson Arnold. And I think a lot of that was to do with the early confidence built with a couple of absolute bombs to Deion Burks.
Deion Burks, fans are going to love him. The more they hear from him, the more they see him. We're going to have a video up on the website later tonight. So check that out. Now listen, Deion Burks talked about, Brent Venables talked about the best thing about him is he does the work. He embraces the work. Jackson Arnold talked about the chemistry that they had together, but he also talked about the way the Seth Luttrell offense allows that fast slot receiver to get down the middle of the field. That's going to be something that OU fans, I think, is a little bit different. Something else Jackson Arnold talked about was the amazing protection he had, especially on the first deep ball. He had a little extra time, a little extra pat of the football, a little extra beat, and he found the receiver deep because the blocking was good up front. Guys, we didn't think the blocking was going to be very good, and there were times today, there were plenty of times where it was a little bit suspect. But I thought today the offensive line was really good, the first offensive line.
Right, as you guys kind of both mentioned, the first offensive line looked a lot better than expected. All spring, I think we've kind of talked about that, this line's very unproven. There's a lot of guys who haven't played a lot of football, guys coming from other schools, kind of wondering how they would fit in, under Bill Bedenbaugh with this Oklahoma offensive line. And today, they looked really good. Now, again, you mentioned the first group looked good. That second group was pretty shaky. You don't really have a lot of depth, at least from the way it looks right now. So you have to hope, if you're an OU personnel, that the first offensive line stays healthy. It seems like OU's still going to be looking to add some guys in the portal, especially at the center position. Josh Isosa was taking the second team reps at center today. The first snap he almost threw over Michael Hawkins' head. But again, that first team offensive line, Jackson Arnold mentioned it. They gave him a lot of time. He said he thought they played really well. And just looking at it being down here on the field, it seemed like those guys gave him. The running backs ran for a decent amount of yards, especially in the first half when that first group was in a lot more. And so I think that if you're an OU fan, OU coach, you have to be pleasantly surprised with what you saw from that first group today. Second group obviously still needs work, and I would expect that OU is still going to hit the portal pretty hard, trying to add some more pieces to that group.
We gave Deion Burks his flowers. Let's give Caleb Hicks his flowers. He had the 30-yard touchdown run where he put a move on a guy and disappeared into the end zone. He had another run, 16 yards, that he just juked somebody's socks off. It was impressive. We might as well say their names, left to right. Pick me up, guys, if I trip. Left to right. Tarquin. Okay. Left guard was Sexton.
Yeah.
Center was Bates.
Real quick on the Sexton thing. That's a late spring. When Randall and I were out there for the first couple of practices we were allowed to view at spring, he was still working at the tackle spot. So I don't think it's a coincidence that Sexton moves over to left guard in between Tarquin and Bates, and we've kind of heard the reports that maybe that group has settled in and starting to build some cohesion.
And if you'll remember, Sexton is one of the guys who played some starts for OU last year when Tyler Guyton was hurt. Sexton stepped in and was able to start a few games at tackle. Him playing guard looked pretty good today.
All right, y'all interrupted me, so now I got to start over. Was it Weiwu at right guard and right tackle was Taylor?
Yeah.
So
Bates at center.
Bates at center. Yep. So I thought those guys played pretty well. The backup offensive line, the second offensive line, had 2 true freshmen, 2 redshirt freshmen, and a transfer. So don't expect anything out of those guys. There's a reason, and Brent Venables said it when he was talking about Michael Hawkins. We can't judge him from his performance just today. He had a really good spring, Michael Hawkins did. What he's basically saying is his offensive line was not very good today. He didn't say that. Those are my words. But let's switch over to the defense. I don't know how this happened, but I got the first question to Brent Venables today, probably because it's the first time he's seen me in a couple of months, right, since probably January. It's my first time in Norman in a little bit, a few weeks. But, the first question was I had one queued up ready to talk about Zach Alley. And I thought Brent answered the question. It was about communication and execution and how things went today, logistically speaking, and how he's done this spring. Brent had a lot of great things to say about Zach Alley.
Yeah, first off, he was excited about that everything seemed to go off without a hitch from the communication point, but something Brent's kind of talked about a couple of times, and he reiterated today, when a guy like Zach Alley goes from Clemson to Boise State to Jacksonville State, then to Oklahoma, not only do you pick up some different wrinkles and things, but you learn quickly how to get in line with that communication top to bottom. And it's something that we've heard about Zach Alley from the players we've talked to, but Ethan Downs talked about it today, Danny Stutzman talked about it today. He's really gifted, it sounds like, at taking complex things they want to introduce or teaching a complex defense to some of those young guys and getting that information across in a really easy, digestible way so that guys can get up to speed and get going quickly. And I think that we've seen, Randall and I have with our own eyes, Brent Venables not having to just hover around the linebackers at practice all the time. Obviously, he checks in with the defense a lot, but there have been moments across the spring practice we've been able to view where he's just sitting and watching the quarterbacks throw for 15 minutes, trying to make sure that every part of this team is going to be firing as they head to the SEC, and a lot of that has to do with the trust he has in Zach Alley.
Yeah, and one of those things that Brent was talking about was specifically about relearning when you step away from a program and then come back. So he's relearning the Clemson program under Brent. That's the way Brent kind of described it when he went to Clemson from Oklahoma. But listen, Oklahoma, some of the stuff that they did today on defense, some of them, yes, struggled, especially in coverage. Burks is like sprinting down the field, like right down where we are right now. And defensive backs just chasing him, and he's pulling away. But I thought the defensive backs played pretty well, especially the ones against the twos. There were tight coverage. There were guys knocking balls down, PBUs, Boganowski trying to kill somebody out here. The OU defensive backs, listen, yes, I know, gave up 2 long touchdowns, but I thought they represented themselves pretty well.
Yeah, I think that you have to be happy with what you saw as an OU fan from the OU defensive backs today. Like you mentioned, Michael Boganowski, a freshman, stepped in there and did some good things. He may have missed some coverages, but again, true freshman playing in there against the ones. He definitely showed that he's not afraid to go lay the boom in coverage. And I mean, you have to think also that guys like Billy Bowman, guys like Woody Washington, guys like Gentry Williams, probably 3 starters out of there were not even playing today, and that group still looked passable. I thought Robert Spears-Jennings had a really good game in the defensive backfield. Jaden Hardy made a few plays. That's another true freshman. Des Malone was out there doing his thing. So I think that last year in the secondary there wasn't a lot of depth, and I think that this year it looks like, at least from today, that might be changed. Change of course.
You said the key word that sparked a memory in my head that I wanted to get to. Brent Venables talked about depth in the quarterback room. He said we look different depth-wise in the quarterback room this year. That's got to be good news for a program that is coming off of left-handed southpaw last year, and then a true freshman was the backup, right? And what happens off of that? They end up going, losing the 3 games down the stretch. I mean, it was not a fantastic finish for the OU offense last year. If everybody stays healthy, the offensive line figures a few things out, I predict the OU offense is going to be in the SEC, is going to have a very good year, very explosive year.
And you saw today, not just the mobility from Arnold, we know that, right, but being able to make things happen behind the line of scrimmage and throw in there. You saw Michael Hawkins' mobility. That'll be really important if those guys are playing behind a struggling offensive line at any point. But You didn't even see OU's backup quarterback, the true backup quarterback, play today. Don't forget Casey Thompson. He will be the backup for Oklahoma. The veteran, he's got not just starting experience, big-time starting experience. Obviously, there's a reason that he's coming in to back up Jackson Arnold, but when you talk about General Booty now 3 years in, you talk about Jackson Arnold, Hawkins, what you saw today, and then Casey Thompson, who's your actual backup. This is the deepest Oklahoma's quarterback room has been under a Brent Venables team.
I mean, Zerbrug with the game-winning drive, General Booty with the 32-yard touchdown run. Burks told me, Deion Burks told me, he's been doing that all year in spring practice, of course. So, quick finish on the defense. The guys said they love playing for Allie the way that he cares about his players. Did you catch any of that? That Ethan Downs, Danny Stutzman both said he's a very personable coach, really cares about his players. I think that's going to help guys come fall.
And we've heard that all spring. Every time we get to talk to these defensive players, they say the same thing. They say that Zach Allie can really relate to these players, whether that's because he's younger, just a new voice in there. I'm not really sure exactly what it is, but every single defensive player we've talked to has said kind of something similar to that they can really relate to him. He's able to relay the information to them really well. It seems like he's already, in the first few months he's been in Norman, built a really good relationship with a lot of these players. It seems like they're really fired up to play for him. That defensive line today, those guys looked really, really good. Grayson Halton, who, again, the defensive line is another area that, we've had questions about. After Jacob Lacey had to medically retire over the offseason, Grayson Halton had a great day. Yep. PJ Adebaware had a pretty good day himself. I thought that David Stone made a few nice plays in there, and so that's another group that they'll probably still be looking into the portal. There's a few defensive linemen transfer targets here today, but still I think that those guys pleasantly surprised today.
That's a wrap. We could stay out here and talk about what we saw today and all spring probably for another hour, but let's wrap this thing up. What's next for the Sooners? Summer. And summer is one of the hardest times of the year. The summer heat, the sand pits that they get into, the duck walks that they do on all the conditioning, the fitness, right up there, stadium steps behind us. These guys are going to put in a ton of work over the next couple of months, over the summer, to get ready for SEC play. Don't forget July 1st is when they join the league officially. That should be fun. We'll have some stories there. What's our website? si.com/college/Oklahoma. Get there. We'll figure out the rest of it here in a few weeks. But that's it for Ryan, for Randall. Bryce is upstairs knocking out some more good stuff. We'll talk to you soon.